Hello. Okay. Nice to see you back. Judging from your happy faces, you had a good lunch. It's time for the next session, afternoon session, which is Challenges of Change and Identity. And we have also moderators for this session, and it's Paula Cordeiro. You saw her in the morning. And Alma Kaurate. She is a senior officer in Archives, Libraries and Museums Division in the Ministry of Culture of Latvia. So these are our moderators, and I would like to give the floor to the speech for citizens' petition to stop high-rise buildings in Munich, Germany. And it's Dr. Klaus Peter Echter, a conservationist, architect, urban planner, and sociologist in engineering. Welcome.
Yeah, you have been told the topic, citizens' petition to stop high-rise buildings in Munich, Germany, and it's about a high-rise building that is planned in München, Neuhausen, and well, I will tell about it. In the Valletta principles in the esteemed Valletta principles of ICOMOS, it is stated, every intervention in historic towns and urban areas must aim to improve the qualities of life of the local residents and the quality of the environment. This consideration does not appear to be reflected in the case of high-rise buildings or skyscrapers, or at least in most of them. In the study Heritage at Risk 2016-2019, published in 2020, ICOMOS examined the challenges posed by high-rises in World Heritage cities, comparable to Munich as a historic city. The next one. Reports of visual impairment resulting from planned or already completed high-rise buildings have been documented in Prague. In Amsterdam, where the city administration is planning the new residential quarter Sluispoort, comprising 14 high-rise buildings just over 2 kilometers away, immediately outside the buffer zone of the World Heritage Canal Ring. And in Vienna, where 6 high-rises are planned within the buffer zone of the World Heritage Site. As in Zurich, these residential towers are encountering considerable opposition. High-rise buildings are visually prominent and exert a dominant presence within the urban fabric. The taller the building, the more pronounced this effect becomes. A heritage professional called Dieter Wieland from Germany expressed this pointedly in standpoints of the Munich Forum. He said, "No building radiates so far in its effects. One has a view, the majority has a sight. Some have light, others lie in the shadow." Next one. For this reason, within the predominantly low-rise European city, it is both appropriate and necessary to reflect carefully on whether high-rises should be constructed at all, and if so, where they ought to be located. What defines a European city? It is a socially integrated, economically prosperous, culturally productive and sustainable city, characterized by public space that remains accessible to all. We had once a CIVVIH meeting about public spaces, and we knew about its importance. High-rise buildings and sustainability. High-rise buildings have become a defining feature of urban development, particularly in rapidly growing metropolitan areas. While these structures address issues such as land scarcity and population density, they also raise critical questions concerning environmental sustainability. The construction and operation of tall buildings are associated with high energy consumption, significant material requirements, and substantial carbon emissions. High-rise buildings do not necessarily save space. Instead, they require additional secondary functions such as elevators, stairwells, and fire safety systems, involve greater structural effort, and often have negative impacts on the urban climate due to unfavorable wind conditions. With regard to affordable housing and the challenges of social inclusion, affordable access to the digital revolution, and sustainable development, one does not need high-rise buildings, but rather more economic, social, and ecological resilience in the city. The architectural character, its aesthetics, and its impact on Munich cityscape. The proposed construction of 255-meter high towers in the vicinity of the so-called Parcel Post Hall in Munich, Neuhausen, has been framed by the city's chief planning officer as an opportunity for urban development and as a contribution to shaping a modern, forward-looking Munich. That's a want. But this city planning officer is a member of ICOMOS, and her husband is in the board of ICOMOS Germany. But that's it. They think it's not modern. But the value of Munich resides in its historically shaped urban structures and cityscapes, which remain perceptible to this day. The historical fabric of protected buildings and ensembles situated within traditional city layouts and exhibiting an exceptionally high quality and significance for a city of 1,500,000 inhabitants must be preserved. Advocates for the conservation of built heritage are not impediments to urban development, as people say. Rather, city planning must proceed with heightened sensitivity to historic structures and buildings, the urban landscape and the skylines, elements for which Munich is widely admired. Of particular relevance are key visual relationships, including the historic skylines of the so-called Old City, as viewed from the Monopterus, I will show it, as well as other significant vantage points, such as the Olympia Mountain and the Nymphenburg Palace. Additionally, visual access extending from monumental architectural landmarks towards the Alpine horizon. Next, please. No, that's a view of the Old City and the sidelines there. Next one. Yeah. And also the next one. And the next. Yeah. In the south, constitute a defining element of Munich's urban character. That's really something so special, and Munich is not known as a city, but a city in the near of the Alps, and that's why the people come. And here you have a view on Munich, on the Alps, and the first or the biggest high-rise building in Munich, which is about 120 meters. Oh, no, it's about 110. And there was a referendum in Munich in the year 2004 that there could be no high-rise building in Germany higher than 100 meters. And well, it was only 51% against 49, but nevertheless, it was a legal instrument, and it was invented by the old mayor against the new mayor. Of particular relevance are key visual relationships, including the historic skyline of the old city as viewed from the monopolis, as well as other significant vantage points, such as the Olympia Mountain and the Nymphenburg Palace. Additionally, visual axes extending from monumental architectural landmarks towards the Alpine horizon in the south constitute a defining element of Munich's urban character. I told this. The Munich populace demonstrates a heightened awareness of and attachment to the city's historic townscape. The preservation of the familiar silhouette and the continuity, and the continuity of historic urban morphologies are perceived not only as integral to cultural heritage, but also as foundational to collective identity and a sense of place. About this high-rise buildings. The planned high-rise buildings will impair the visual relationships. Now the next, that's a parcel post hall just in the near, and then the next, it's a planned high-rise building next. And these are the shadows from this planned building next. And it's a Nymphenburg Palace with a simulation of the parcel post hall, and of this ensemble with the Cavaliers' houses next. Yeah, and if these two buildings are erected, then the other one will come, next one. And this is high-rise top Munich for the people, not for the investors. Next. And this is Olympia Park, which will be, they want to have UNESCO World Heritage Site because there aren't any sports here. And next one, and these are the high-rise buildings on the end. It's a sideline from the old quarter. It's really a problem. The repercussions for Munich's World Heritage nomination of the Olympic Park ensemble and the sports facilities of the 1972 Olympic Games are considerable, as the blend high-rise towers compromise the visual integrity and authenticity of the proposed property. I will come to the end then. The two planned high-rises set to become Munich's tallest buildings would, according to concerns raised by the so-called Denkmalnetz Bayern, that's civil society organizations, trigger a dam break because of their close location to the city center. That's what I showed. The result would be further high-rises in this area. In response to the proposed development, a non-partisan citizens initiative called Hochhausstopp, High-Rise Stop, launched a petition opposing the planned 150-meter high towers and collected signatures from Munich residents against the planned towers in Munich Neuhausen. By the end of March 2025, The group had managed to gather nearly 50,000 signatures for a citizen referendum, 3% of all of them. And 33,000 signatures from eligible Munich voters were required. However, a majority in the Munich City Council, including council members from all three major parties, the Green Party, Christian Democrats, and SPD, declared the referendum inadmissible in spring 25. No, I note only 1 minute. The official reason was that, according to the city legal department, the citizens' initiative would violate municipal planning authority. This decision is presently the subject of legal proceedings initiated by the citizens group in question. The lawsuit was filed in July 2024 by the two chairpersons of the association Hochhausstopp. And these were people, council members, which are against their own party. The Munich Administrative Court must now decide the lawsuit.
Thank you very much. Munich was one of my first German cities I visited, so it was really valuable insight. Thank you. And now the floor is given for a speech, an evaluation of urban conservation and rehabilitation studies within the scope of resilience. Case of Mama Monu in Ankara. And it will be presented by Elif Mishçoğlu, from associated professor at the University of Economy and Technology, Department of Architecture in Ankara.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, dear CIVVIH members and all conference attendants, our Latvian friends and colleagues and all attendants. Today I'll be presenting our study titled An Evaluation of Urban Conservation and Rehabilitation Studies within the scope of resilience, the case of Hamamünü in Ankara. The focus of this study is to explore how conservation efforts in Hamamünü have impacted its socioeconomic resilience in particular. The study is based on the data of a research project under my coordination, supported by the Scientific and Technological Research Council of Turkey, TÜBİTAK, and its outcome master's thesis studied at my university, which was completed in 2022 by my former thesis student, Rabia Çakıroğlu. So, today's cities face growing traumas, such as pandemics, disasters, energy shortages, and ecological shifts, making resilience a central concept in urban planning. This study applies two key international models, RELI and CRI, to evaluate the resilience of conservation and rehabilitation works in Hamamünü, launched in 2006 and started to be implemented in 2009. While we examined physical, social, and economic aspects, this presentation focused on social and economic resilience as a model for similar historic areas. The study assessed Hamamünü's capacity to withstand disruptions such as COVID-19 and the subsequent economical crisis, to define key principles and forward-looking proposals to safeguard vulnerable historic urban settings. The nationwide impacts of the February 2023 earthquakes in Turkey were excluded due to the project's timing. The Rockefeller Foundation launched 100 Resilient Cities project initiative in 2013, applying resilience across 100 cities worldwide. From this work, the City Resilience Index, or abbreviated as CRI, was developed as a tool with 4 dimensions, 12 objectives, and 52 indicators, addressing social, infrastructural, historical, demographic, and environmental factors to strengthen adaptive capacity. The second resilience system, evaluation system, really, was created by Green Business Certification Inclination with the US Green Building Council, developed by the team behind LEED. Unlike CRI, RELI is more conceptual, offering design paradigms and scoring categories such as community cohesion, energy, and water management to prepare projects for natural hazards while improving urban life quality. Our methodology included field surveys, structured interviews with local stakeholders, and spatial analysis using GIS tools. These approaches helped capture both quantitative and qualitative dimensions of urban transformation. After analyzing the two most known resilience ability assessment approaches of CRI and RELI, they're applied together. We decided so for more comprehensive results, considering the characteristics of the study area. Indicators unsuitable for the study area were excluded, and 8 measurable categories, of which 5 linked to socioeconomic resilience, were selected for analysis. Data were collected through a survey of residents, daily commuting working people, and visitors, enabling a systematic assessment of physical, social, and economic impacts in line with international resilience criteria. Ankara, the capital of the Turkish Republic, has been inhabited since the 8th century BCE by civilizations such as the Phrygians, Lydians, and Romans. Between the 16th and 19th centuries, the city became world-renowned for sof, which is a fine mohair cloth woven from the hair of the Angora goat, a special breed difficult to acclimatize outside the Anatolian steppe until the 19th century. Its production and trade were managed by the Ahi guilds, which are early professional associations that ensured quality and regulated artisans. Sof was produced both in houses, such as those in Hamamönü, and in specialized workshops. Although Ankara had a predominantly Muslim population, it also included significant Christian and Jewish communities, making up about 1/6 of the city's population since the 15th century, and living in either mixed or separate neighborhoods. Hamamönü, however, was established as a distinctly Muslim neighborhood, as reflected in its religious landmarks, such as mosques and community buildings like the Taceddin Lodge. During the Ottoman period, houses were constructed with stone masonry on the ground floor and timber frame structures above. Following the topography and parcel boundaries, they were originally designed for single families, but were expanded over time as families grew, in line with traditional Ottoman residential practices. So, Hamamönü, known for its cultural heritage, featuring historic Ottoman residential architecture and religious public buildings, has been restored and revitalized, aiming to preserve its historic character while enhancing its economic appeal as a tourism destination. Before revitalization, Hamamönü struggled with security issues, poor infrastructure, dilapidated housing, and unauthorized modifications with neglection, becoming an area mostly used by low-income groups due to affordability at that time. Despite many plans since the 1930s, conservation efforts failed to be implemented, and real progress, began in 2006 with the local municipalities' rehabilitation projects on 2 main streets. Conservation and rehabilitation studies aim to enhance both the physical environment and the local economy, with several municipal buildings allocated to cafes and restaurant chains. The growing service sector and rising interest in the area drove the shift from residential to commercial use, leading to extensive alterations in historic buildings that compromised their original layouts and facades, sometimes resulting in loss of heritage value. After aiming the existing physical and environmental conditions in the area, these questions were posed according to CRI and RELI 2.0 to understand the socioeconomic resilience of the region. Is there sectoral diversity in businesses? Has business growth been achieved? Is business continuity ensured? Are disadvantaged groups employed? Do local businesses serve beyond Hamamönü? Are income sources protected from shocks? Is job security provided? Are stakeholders involved in employment creation? Stakeholders who are property owners, tenants, local Altındağ municipality, and neighboring Hacettepe University. And here are the outcomes of this evaluation. About the economic diversity, the Hamamönü Rehabilitation Project doubled the number of commercial enterprises from 38 to 78 by 2019, largely shifting the area's economic structure toward cafes, restaurants, and souvenir shops. While this transformation boosted tourism, it is seen that it also caused the closure of traditional businesses, loss of architectural authenticity, and raised concerns about sectoral homogenization and economic resilience during crises like the COVID-19 pandemic. About the economic continuity, when the change of use in the physical environment and the diversity of business sectors are examined, the findings can be summarized as positive perception of rehabilitation, rising rental costs, no significant welfare increase, social factors in resilience, loss of traditional structure. About positive discrimination, Hamamönü Rehabilitation Project supported disadvantaged women by establishing a handicrafts market and offering traditional craft training, enabling them to safely sell their products without the burden of shop rents. Additionally, female entrepreneurs received priority through credit and rental support, promoting inclusive employment in the area. About urban connectivity, the businesses in the study area mainly serve local visitors, particularly from the neighboring Hacettepe University hospital staff, students, and patients with limited economic ties to the wider city due to the area's pedestrianized structure and service sector focus. During the pandemic, high costs prevented food delivery services from expanding, underscoring the need for a new model that strengthens citywide economic integration by leveraging Hamamönü potential. Main findings related to resilience of the study area to shocks and disasters are the COVID-19 pandemic exposed the low resilience of the study area's service-based economy. Lockdowns and long-term restrictions halted business operations, especially cafes, restaurants, souvenir shops, and bookstores. 97% of business-related respondents reported negative impacts, while most residents felt their privacy improved. Rising debts, job losses, and permanent closures. 13 shops and/or restaurants were closed, highlighted the area's fragile economic structure despite prior revitalization efforts. About social security and employment security, most Hamamönü employees are uninsured part-time student workers from the university, making up like 70% of the workforce, which undermines employment and social security. Despite increased employment after revitalization, lack of insurance, low sectoral diversity, and high staff turnover reduce service quality and social resilience. About stakeholder participation, despite initial efforts, stakeholder participation was limited. The project primarily attracted large investors, sidelining local residents and small businesses. And recommendations for strengthening socioeconomic resilience in Hamamönü: centralized governance with participation, economic diversity and mixed use, inclusive support for vulnerable groups, expanding beyond the local scale, sustainable long-term planning are recommended to solve and to regulate a kind of socioeconomic resilience in Hamamönü and for the similar cases. In conclusion, Hamamönü provides valuable lessons. While its conservation efforts preserved cultural assets, true resilience requires a broader, inclusive approach that balances heritage with economic and social sustainability. Strengthening economic diversity and ensuring social cohesion are key to long-term resilience. Supporting disadvantaged groups and protecting cultural heritage makes these places inclusive and meaningful. By combining these priorities, we can create historic districts that are truly resilient, sustainable, and future-ready. Thank you for your attention.
And thank you for your experience, really inspiring. Please stay somewhere, here, don't go far away. And so we have next speech is Co-Constructing Living Heritage by Carmen Azevedo. So she's an architect specializing in the restoration of built heritage from Belgium.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Well, I have a cold, so I'll try to stay with you. It's a pleasure to me to be here today. As we listen from this morning, our cities are transforming at an unprecedented pace. Climate crisis, demographic pressures, economic shifts. These challenges affect us everywhere. No one is spared. And even if here in Kuldīga, time may seem to flow differently, more gently than in many other places in Belgium and in many other cities around the world, change is intense and often disruptive. So, one fundamental question rises: how can we build the future without losing our soul? I'm convinced that living heritage is part of this answer, not as a relic in the past, but as an active resource, a compass for sustainable cities, rooted in located identities and capable of resilience in times of crisis. Living heritage goes far beyond materials conservation. It embodies 5 essential values for me. Authenticity, the walls, beams, and stones that testify to centuries of continuity. Landscape value, landmarks that structure the identity and the image of the city. Integration, constructions, embedded in their territory using local materials and technicals. Artistic and technical value, masterpieces of craftsmanship, constructive ingenuity, and decoration. And the last, memory, places where collective stories and events are inscribed. Living heritage is therefore a network of material, immaterial, social, and landscape values that nourish the present and inspire the future. It is not just about memory. It is about tasted resilience. These buildings and urban fabrics have already survived wars, industrialization, and mass urbanization. They are examples we should not ignore. The vitality of a historic center does not lie in facades alone. It lies in social practices. The weekly market, the artisan network, the courtyard where children play. Let me illustrate this with the Brussels Stock Exchange. These classified monuments have been not used for years after financial markets involved and developed. Once a closed in the beginning and exclusive place, it has now been restored and reimagined. Today, it has functions as an indoor streets of Brussels, a vibrant public space at the very heart of the city. This project expresses my conviction. Preservation is not about freezing forms. It is about accompanying transformation while remaining faithful to the genius of the place. The site is both restored and alive, and this proves that memory, know-how, and social practice are not obstacles, but resources for resilience. How can we achieve this? Through co-construction, residents, users, and local communities are the true custodians of meaning and continuity. They know how a square, a fountain, or a workshop really represents. To involve them, we use several tools: participatory workshops to imagine solutions together, shared diagnostics, where every stakeholder contributes from experts to inhabitants, use charters, genuine social contracts that guide the evolution of places. These methods make projects more robust and more accepted, because when people feel involved, they believe in the project. And when that happened, the satisfaction is immense. And as we heard this morning from the beautiful presentation of the architect Jana Jacobson, who explained how heritage is managed and involves here in Kuldīga, we already have a strong, visible, and current example of this concept in practice. Heritage and innovation are often seen as opposites, in Belgium at least, but this is a false dichotomy. In fact, heritage already embodies principles that they care for today: water management, both scarcity and abundance, mineral resources, raw materials that are disappearing, short supply chains, working with local resources and partners, growth and circularity, selective dismantling, recycling, minimizing waste, craftsmanship and know-how, the ability not only to build, but to repair, to build, to repair and rebuild. Every project we undertake must address this challenge. During the restoration of a listed building, we implemented a circular construction site. Water from facade cleaning was collected, filtered, and reused inside. Sand recovered from cleaning was reused in lime mortars. Timber from non-original window was salvaged to build a future community greenhouse. Nails, screens, and metal pieces were sorted for rows. Everything was reused, everything that we could was reused in this building construction site. In short, every intervention was approached with selective dismantling, recycling, and local collaboration. This experience demonstrates that heritage is not a break. On the contrary, it is an accelerator of sustainable innovation. Resilience is not only a technical matter, it is also cultural and emotional. Cities that remember are better prepared to face this crisis. When memory is integrated into urban development, it avoids ruptures, strengthens identity, and helps community recover aftershocks. A restored building is not only stone and mortar, it carries the collective memory of events, stories, and practice. For example, when a historic site is reactivated rather than demolished, it brings continuity to place, continuity to community, continuity to meaning. This continuity is what makes a city resilient. As we say, cities that remember endure better than cities that forgot. But none of this can succeed without the right governance structures. Heritage cannot be managed by experts alone. It must be treated as a common good, involving residents, institutions, professionals, and associations. When decisions are unilateral, they create division and destruct. For example, in Brussels, again, the relocation of the major public artwork, the Square de la Maturité, by Victor Rousseau was decided without consultation. This disrupted the memory of a public square and provoked strong opposition from citizens and experts. The result was a deep loss of trust in institutions. Inclusive governance, on the other hand, guarantees the memory remains alive and projects strengthening social cohesion instead of weakening it. Conclusion: to preserve living heritage means maintaining authenticity and memory, valuing craftsmanship and the local economy, integrating innovation and circularity, involving citizens in every stage, and building inclusive governance. Living cities are those that transform without losing their soul. They see heritage not as a constraint, but as a resource, a compass, an energy to reinvent our common future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please stay somewhere in the front. We have another speech in this session, and this is Heritage Preservation and Integration in Historic Towns and Villages, example of Ilūkste. Presented by Aija Ziemeļniece. Professor, leading researcher at the Institute of Landscape, Architecture and Environmental Engineering. Please. So the speech will be in Latvian. For those who need translations, maybe you take the earphones or somebody can help with distributing the earphones. Varbūt kāds var palīdzēt padalīt austiņas, jo runa būs latviešu valodā, ja būs tulkojums vajadzīgs. So the speech is going to be in Latvian. Please take your earphones for translation.
Vispirmām kārtām paldies ir ICOMOS Latvija darba grupai, kas ir spējusi noorganizēt tik ļoti spēcīgu, ārkārtīgi grandiozu pasākumu. Protams. Es saprotu, ka tas jā, viņi ļoti labi tulkoja, es vēl paklausījos. Perfekti. Meitene teica, ka tā franču meitene runā. Es neesmu kā mācījusi, ir tikai viens semestrs franču valodā, bet viņi tik labi tulkoja. Iesākumā es pateikšu paldies ICOMOS Latvija darba grupai, kas spēja noorganizēt arī Kuldīgā, arī Latvijā tik ārkārtīgi augstu pasaules mēroga profesionāļu piesaisti gan no Eiropas, gan no Amerikas kontinenta. Un tas mani priecē, Latvija var. Mums ir tāds sauklis, un Kuldīga arī var. Paldies, Jana! Bet Kuldīga, Altes Kurlanda, Altes Balddeutsches Kurland, tā runā vāciski. Kuldīga vecā galvaspilsēta Kurzemes hercogistei, kas atradās Kurzemes hercogistes pašā rietrumdaļā. Savukārt Ilūkste, maza pilsētiņa, ar 4000 iedzīvotājiem pēc Pirmā pasaules kara, un tagad tikai nepilni 2000 iedzīvotāji pašā tālākajā Kurzemes hercogistes austrumu stūrī, kur iepretī Daugavas, lielās mūsu upes Daugavas pretējā labajā krastā atradās bijusī Polijas teritorija. Mums tagad tā ir Latgale. Līdz ar to Daugava kā robeža upe starp Livoniju, Poliju un veco Kurzemi. Arhīvu materiālos Ilūgstes mazpilsētiņas vārds parādās 16. gadsimta vidū. Pilsētiņa attīstās līdzās mazai upītei Ilūgstei, kas ir Daugavas pieteka. Šeit ir aptuveni neliels šis chronoloģiskais apraksts, kur Daugava kā robeža upe, kur pa upi uz leju nāca dažādas konfescijas ļaudis. Pareizticīgie, vecticībnieki, ebreji, savukārt pa Daugavu augšup katoļi, un tagad šajā stūrītī, tālākajā Kurzemes hercogis stūrītī, veidojās īsta sakrālo ēku, jeb dievnamu pērles. Gan pareizticīgo baznīcas, gan sinagogas, gan vecticībnieku baznīcas, tai skaitā arī jezuītu klostera baznīca. Šobrīd Ilūgste, kur ir tikai nepilni 2000 iedzīvotāji, ar aptuveni 8,7 kvadrātkilometru lielu platību, robežojas ar 3 izteiksmīgām, tādām ainavu telpām. Tā ir meža ainava vecā vēsturiskā, lūk šeit. Tad ir pilsētas ielu tīklojums un visbeidzot pilsētas ziemeļa rietumu daļa veido ārkārtīgi gleznainas tālas skatu līnijas reljefā. Latgales reljefs, kas paverās tālās skatu līnijās, skaidrā laikā pat sasniedzot 15 kilometrus. Neliela schēma pētot un meklējot, saliekot arhīvu materiālus, Līksnas dievnams, Daugavas labais krasts, Ilūgste, Daugavas kreisais krasts, kur ceļš, kas ved no vecās vēsturiskās Polijas teritorijas, zemes ceļš, tātad tirzniecība, kur tirzniecība vairāk vai mazāk koncentrējās Ilūgstē, tātad tirzniecībai galvenokārt attīstoties pa Daugavu, tomēr spēja sasniegt arī Ilūgstes pilsētu un šīs mazpilsētiņas attīstību. Lūk, šie atsevišķie punkti. Par to arī liecina neliels, protams, tur ir vajadzīga atkal atsevišķa izpēta, liecina šis stūra kroks, ceļmalas kroks, zirgu pasts, iespējams arī ērbēģis ar zirgu stalulām. Ielas pat labāk ir pārspīlēti platas, jo pēckara gados okupācijas laiks ir nolikvidējis mazdārziņus, kas bija gar ēku abām pusēm, gar ielas abām pusēm, es atvainojos. Okupācijas laiks ir nolikvidējis vecos vēsturiskos žogus, un tā kā bija raksturīgi šie izstieptie zemes gabali, šņorgabali, tad šņorgabalos abū koncentrējās tuvāk ieliņām, aizmugurē sakņu dārs, kartupeļi, bietes, kāposti, lai pēstu paši un pabarot lopiņus. Augļu kokus nestādīja, jo tur ir gana vargas ziemas un zeme izsalst dziļāk pa 1,20 m un augļu koka aiziet postā. Bet pamazām aizejot postā ne tikai iela tai vēsturiskai apbūvei, postā arī aiziet tas greznums, tas skaistums, kas bija raksturīgs šīm ēkām. Ienāk pakešu logi, logailu ritmu nomaiņas, logu šprosējumi izzūd, un tikai šur tur vēl saglabājās vecais skārts uz jumtiem un vecie dēļu šķūnīši. Un arī vecā šīs vēsturiskās ēkas saglabā tikai tādu kā pudura raksturu. Ienāk plastmas, mainās jumtu slīpnes, ēku augstumi, mainās sienu augstumi, veidojās svešāds logailu ritms. Tā ir tā krīze, tā ir katastrofa vārda vistiešākajā nozīmē, ja, kad šie robi un bezzobainā attieksme, pašvaldības attieksme pret kultūru vēsturiskajām vērtībām spēja ārkārtīgā straujā tempā aizlaist zudībā svarīgas lietas. Arī šīs krustazīmes, kur ienākot katrai mazajai ieliņai, jeb tam vecajam ganību ceļam, jo ieliņas jau kalpoja kā ganību ceļi, pa kurām dzina lops uz pļavām, uz palienas pļavām. Tikai tagad tur ir milzu asfalti, šo kultūru telpu vārdu vistiešākajā nozīmē izmēžot ārā. Šis konflikts faktiski jau aizsākās arī pirms Otrā pasaules kara, kad pirmās brīvvalsts laikā līdzās kultūra vēsturiskajām mantojumam sāka parādīties daudzstāvu apbūve, īpaši skolas, pagastu mājas, un līdz ar to jāsaka paldies Dievam, kad bija koku stādījumi, kas aizsedz šos te milzīgi kontrastējošos būvapjomus līdzās vecam vēsturiskajam kultūra mantojumam. Lūk, atkal atsevišķas tikai saliņas, atsevišķas ēkas, kas ir palikušās gar ielas malām. Ēkas tika būvētas ar koris paralēli ielas garenasī, bet savukārt palīgi ēkas, jeb šķūnīši, kūtiņas ar kori perpendikulāri pret ielas garenasi. Lūk, ēka, kas pieder diviem saimniekiem, vienam ir skaidrs, ka ēkas logiem ir jābūt aprāmējumiem un logiem jābūt sīkajām šprosītēm, savukārt otram saimniekam ir vajadzīgs liels, skaists, plašs vitrīns. Vēsturiskais centrs, kurā atradās dievnami, ko es pašā iesākumā stāstīju, ka pilsētai ir raksturīgs šis sakrālās pilsētas kulminācijas raksturs. Arī pat labāk koki ar savu milzu lapotni aizsedz vēsturiskās dominances, sauksim tā. Izbijusī Pirmā pasaules karā nopostītā Baltijā viena no lielākajām jezuītu klosteru baznīcām, kur blakus ēkai ir parādījies vēl otrais stāvs, savukārt klostera ēka ir izzudusi no zemes virsmas ne tikai pilsētu telpā, bet arī siluetā jeb panorāmā. Tā vietā nāk koki, neloģiski, salikti, aizsedzot, aizklājot mazpilsētās svarīgas skatu līnijas. Visbeidzot iedzīvotāji. Ko iedzīvotāji par to saka? Mēs saņēmām 81 anketu, mēs apkopojam šos jautājumus. Protams, dominē, ka pilsēta ir klusa, vide ir labvēlīga, jo tā ir dzimtā pilsēta un tā ir zaļā pilsēta. Protams, aptuveni 1,5 kilometra rādījusā ir jāatrodās gan skolai, gan sporta zonai, tai pašai estrādei un tā tālāk. Lūk, šādā tādā funkcionālā sakārtotības meklējumā un apkopojot iedzīvotāju vēlmes tīri vizuāli. Tātad māksla, muzika, sports, restaurācija, vēsturisko dievnāmu atjaunošanu un, protams, saglabājot skatus ainavu telpā, kur ainavu visspēcīgāk atverās nevis ziemas apstākļos, bet arī vasaras laikā, kad ir kad mēs meklējam turismu, lai dabūtu šai pilsētā iekšā, izvērtēt, kuri ir tie koki, kas aizklāja galvenās skatu līnijas. Lūk, te arī tas tika izvērtēts. Protams, arī par plūdiem gāja runa, savēlkot statistiku par plūdiem 10 gadu laikā, 20, 100 un 200 gadu laikā. Tad, ko darām, kā attīstam, kuras ēkas tomēr ir traucējošas un kuras aizklāja galvenās skatu līnijas un kuras ir tās, kuras ir jāatjauno un jāatgūst atpakaļ, īpaši šo veco sakrālo ēku laukumu, koriģējot pilsētas esošo teritoriālo plānojumu un piedāvājot jaunus risinājumus. Šeit jūs varējāt perfekti redzēt šo šņorgabalus, ja, šīs šaurās zemes strēmeles, kur abu koncentrējās gar ielu, bet aizmugurē ir dārzs teritorija, bet ieliņi kalpo gājējiem, zirgiem, vēsturiski, protams, un kā lopceļš uz ganībām. Tāds ir aptuveni skats, kur ir iegrauzusies padomijas okupācijas laika, daudzstāvu abūve līdzās klosteru divstāvīgajai ēkai, iet ļoti nopietnas sarunas par šīs daudzstāvu dzīvojamās ēkas demontāžu. Lūk, viņa plānā tur ir nolasām, ievērtējot arī izsauļojumu diagrammu, kā rādīja par Minheni, ja, par šīm milzu apēnojumu strēlēm. Un visbeidzot, ja zaļa pilsēta, tad šī zaļā rekreatīvā telpa, kā viņa ir atgūt iedzīvotājiem atpakaļ un atkal piesaistīt iedzīvotājus pilsētai. Paldies!
Thank you very much. Also, the story was a bit sad, but it gave us a very good insight of what's going on. So now I would like to ask all the speakers of this session to take your seats in the front and the moderators to ask questions.
Okay, thank you all for really interesting presentations that, at least with me, resonated a lot. Well, in a way, the last one maybe the most, because in Latvia, for us who come from more from rural areas, the shrinking of population is an important topic. Because in many places have changed a lot due to the course, for example, of my lifetime, they have lost like third or 2/3 of population, and it means that also the place is changing in some way. And from my side, the questions that I would like to ask you all, how it is that nowadays a lot of communities change. Either the population is shrinking, or it's sprawling, or it's a change of due to the migration, but there are changes happening. And from heritage sector, we usually have regulations that we have identified things that we must preserve. But with the changes in the communities, quite often the community is changing, and at the place, sometimes we don't have this heritage community anymore who is able to appreciate this heritage. And then my question would be, how can we manage those changes, and how to and whether it's possible, and what tools we can offer from heritage practice that in a way is practice of managing change to be able to preserve spirit of those places that are in a way in a constant change, we could say. So maybe someone is willing to reply, or maybe you want to. Okay.
I don't know if it will be an answer. In fact, I think change is inevitable, and it's maybe impossible to manage the way changes happen. But our mission would be to find the best way how to conserve the heritage and how to find a consensus in between this change, and no matter what, manage to conserve, manage to preserve the heritage from us, from our side as specialists, conservation specialists, I believe. We tried to evaluate, to get ready for the inevitable traumas happening in the world, all over the world. We tried to make an evaluation and find a way to get ready for the important crisis like COVID-19, or we had earthquakes, which affected not only the area, but the whole country. And changes happen, no matter what, wars and natural disasters. I think human is capable of, trying to find a way and get ready. We're here to make a call to get ready, I guess. Thank you.
Well, I'm not the right person for rural aspects, but nevertheless, of course, we have in Germany many regions which suffer and which have the same elements, as you said, people who are leaving, especially in the east of Germany. It's a question of economy. The young people wants to work, and there are only some strongholds in East Germany, like the cities Leipzig and Dresden, and perhaps and other ones. But the rural landscape is weak. There is one possibility, especially in the north, in the near of the Baltic Sea. Tourism is a very good tool, and also some people from the city they have a second home, and that's in the rural thing, and there is work, but of course this is also not the ideal, because it's they are only there for some months in the year, and or less, and that's not quite good. But perhaps there are some handcrafts which are important for this region, and they could give a little bit an economic progress. But in the cities, we have still cities where the growth is a problem. Like Munich, I spoke about the skyscrapers, and there is so much increase in value. So for this, I couldn't tell this because of the lack of time. The investor of this two high-rises, he bought the property for 250 million euros. And because of the land values he got from the council, now this area is 600 million euros worth, without being built, 600 years worth. But his profit is not 400 millions now, even he did nothing. It's 250 millions, because the other 200 millions belong to the city, because he has to build kindergarten and social housing and so on. But nevertheless, it's crazy, and he will not build it. He will get the final decision to build, and then he will sell it, and then it will cost 800 million. So it's really a problem. Okay, Munich is something spectacular, but nevertheless, we have really problems in many cities because of the people cannot afford to live there. The rents are too high, so they go to surrounding villages and towns. But nevertheless, it's for all a problem. Thank you.
I just would like to add one thing. For me, the change is right now in front of us with the year, for example, and it means a big change, and we all here participate in this changing our way to déplacer, to move, the way that we eat. So we need, just as experts, as lovers of this patrimony, of this heritage, to be part of it, to listen, and to be enough open to create with them, because they will change. This is right now. This is in the regulations, the governments, the investors, everybody. So this is a moment very important for this generation of experts to be part of it.
Es, protams, paturpināšu latviski. Latvija ir tikai 35 gadus brīva no Krievijas okupācijas, kas notiek turpat pie Ilūkstes pilsētas 15 kilometru attālumā. Mums atrodas Krievija, un šis 35 gados mūsu valsts ekonomika ir ārkārtīgi straujiem soļiem gājusi uz priekšu. Bet tā pirmais, tas grūdienis neapšaubām ir pilsēttelpām. Tā pilsēttelpa ir tā, kur attīstās darba vietas, kur attīstās uzņēmēja darbība, attīstās infrastruktūra, un līdz ar to neapšaubām no lauku reģioniem tie aizvien vairāk iztukšojās ārā. Un tas ir, un godīgi sakot, tādas īstas receptes, kā to risināt, ir ārkārtīgi grūti. Īpaši Latvija, kas ir tikai 35 gadus brīva no okupācijas.
I would like to go back a little bit about what we spoke about the citizens' engagement in most of all the presentations. And I wonder how could we effectively influence urban planning decisions? Because we see the case of Munich, that there is a petition, but it's not taking into account. And how to solve the problem of the conflict with the development interests and, of course, the top-down governments. Because when we speak about initiative of communities, we are speaking about the contrary, from the down to up. So I would like to know what do you think it could be the engagement or the kind of tools that we could propose to be more to have more impact.
Yeah, I think it's not so problematic as I told you about the civil society organization which is against these high rises. I told you about 3% of the inhabitants of Munich signed this. And of course, that means 50,000 people, and that means not all are people who are really, who know about heritage and who are in favor of it. But nevertheless, they are supported by a heritage expert, at least, and you need them, because otherwise the city will not listen. Even they did not listen to this before these 50,000 people signed, and they gave the building rights to this investor without any without any reason, because well, it's of course an economic problem, but there are so, at least in my city, there are so many civil society organizations who care, and because most of the people are well educated, and since they know if they don't care for the city, then the city will not be as the same as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions in the audience, please?
Gediminas.
Yes, thank you. I'm Gediminas Rutkauskas, and I'm just a visitor listening this event. And I have a question, former site manager of Vilnius Historic City Center. I have a practical question to Klaus Peter. You have mentioned expressively, explicitly about the high-rise buildings, but the so-called iconic architecture is damaging, to my opinion, much more, because high-rise buildings are just morphologic, usually faceless expression with some limited lasting, technically. But iconic architecture is something very much different. It impacts heavily the cultural tradition and homogeneity of the context, cultural context. What's your opinion about that?
You must repeat the question again, because what do you mean with, you mean the high-rise buildings are...
No, I mean specifically so-called advanced architecture, which is iconic. The famous architects, no matter, Frank Lloyd Wright, he was local, but there were others, which would not correct to mention, which built well-known architectural masterpieces in a very different global context. But their masterpieces heavily impacts the homogeneity, identity, and the cultural tradition of the particular site. So how this impacts, or you think it doesn't impact, though it's not a high rise at all?
Oh, you are so absolutely right, because these iconic buildings from architects like Zaha Hadid or they don't think about the context, really not. They just build their sculptural buildings, and they think we are the one. And of course we have it in Munich too. I guess that's really a big problem, and it must, the people must be aware of this problem, but it's very hard, of course. because the city think, oh, we have these iconic buildings, and that's the city. And so it's, and I guess the city council also thinks like this. These two high-rises is from Herzog and Meuron, which has built the Olympic stadium, not the Olympic stadium, the stadium of Bayern München, which is a really nice Olympic, nice stadium. And it has built in the city a shopping mall and really looked at the heritage there. But here, they are not aware of this problem, and it's not. They say there is no let's say social or historical or urbanistic rationale for this. It's not discernible, but. And they have built high rises in Basel, and many people think, well, in Basel it's also not good, but well, it's a problem, especially with these architects who have showed that they can know about iconic buildings, which are okay for the context, but mostly not. And I think there are so many examples in the world. I think it's crazy. But it's really a deciding point. Okay.
And then Lennox, architect from Riga. Question to you from Munich. Have you stopped any high-rise, any building?
Yeah, that's what I just. That's what I just explained to you. Because now this civil society organization is suing in the court. But something really nice is that the mayor, who was 2004 in favor of these high-rise buildings more than 100 meters, who lost against the old one, not alone, but he was one of the favorite. This mayor, he is now against these high-rise buildings, even it was before. But if you ask me, will you lose or not? Will these people lose in the court or not? I don't know. But of course, it's possible. But you need a society, a civil society, who is really powerful. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Again, Klaus Peter. No, it was just the moment when I thought about it. You started with a very nice quotation about the right to have a high-rise building and what happens to the people around. If it were not Munich and it were not the World Heritage and everything, would it be right to have a skyscraper in a normal city? From the position, I will go on and then you will answer. Because I believe that we have come to a critical point, when all the changes happening nowadays are bringing us to a point where we have to, as societies, to take very important decisions about what we value. And it is not about only preserving heritage because of the World Heritage List or whatever. It is about where we are heading as humanity. If a skyscraper is not good for a historic city where people live in the shadow of something, why is it good for anywhere else in any city? And then I was thinking also about several other things. And one thing was my only experience on site of a disaster I was involved in this. It was Germany again. It was in the year 2000, and it was in Dessau. And there was this huge flooding on the River Elbe, and the wave was coming. So the wave was said to be 8 meters high, so nothing to be done. You walk around, you see it is a flat place, and you cannot run anywhere. You are there. And I was absolutely impressed by the people, the citizens there, and by the authorities. The organization was German one, very good, but then all the people from the city, there was no panic, there was no screaming, there was no calculating indicators or anything. It was just awareness that it is urgent and that your 2 hands are needed in this. And people were filling in sand in some big bags and putting them on the bench of the river. Probably we need to realize that what we're facing, we speak about changes and the inevitable changes, but it has been changing. These cities we love and we describe, they emerged somewhere in the 10th, 11th, 12th century, and they have been changing all the time. Some of them dying, some of them quite resilient if they still stay there. We have come to a different point. It's not only about change. It's about something very crucial and very urgent. And probably that's what we need to realize, what we try to preserve, what we try to keep, because we need it to survive as humanity. And then we come to values, and then we come to the reason for being, for the reason for keeping this heritage, or whatever we decide is worth keeping while we change. Because after all, we speak about keeping, but then each generation living on this earth have left some trace, have contributed something which is left as heritage, as valuable thing. And this question is then coming to us as living generations. What are we going to leave as a trace? Tangible, intangible, you choose. And then you come to this iconic architecture, which we mentioned. It's not about Zaha Hadid or any other of these great architects. It's because somebody wanted to have iconic architecture and put it where it shouldn't be put. Because we want to leave something as a trace, but then it is again about values. What we want to put there, what we value. Do we value some building which is just the fashionable one and the great architecture? I'm not against great architecture at all. And then, yeah, I think that it is again about what you put there as the beginning of your presentation. And it's more general than just what to preserve and how to preserve it. I have no answer to this question.
Yes, I have one. Okay. In some aspects, I agree with you. In this special case, we are not against, or these people are not against this altogether. They say not 155, but 60 meters would be okay. That's a possibility. And but you agreed that there are World Heritage Sites, and Munich is the only city in Germany which does not have a World Heritage Site. But it's well, so it's a problem there. And but you said it could be in other parts of Munich, on the outskirts. Why? Yes, I understood. Yeah, but okay, but I told you about problems of high-rise buildings. The council manager, city council, they told us high-rise buildings are modern, but it's not anymore in the world. It's changing. So I think with the modernity, okay, but in other cities, I wouldn't say it's okay with high rises if the people are also not against this. And then you said about the change. Of course, we need the change, and so I'm really happy that with this 50,000 signatures, there are many people who are really young. They signed it because they knew about that the history and the future is really dependent upon the history, and they know the qualities of it, and the qualities are not always something. If it's iconic, it can be a problem, as we saw it. So, but I'm not. Of course, I'm not against change. I know a city is change, and so yeah, okay.
Thank you. I think that change is a topic that in a way we could discuss, even I could say internally. But I think that also for heritage sector, change also have been important, because in a way it has created the preservation movement, and also it has shaped. And so in a way, even though many changes are happening around, we can hope that also for our work it will give well, we could say new force at some point, and maybe more support from societies that we are lacking sometimes and that we are dreaming for, because if there will be a big change, maybe again there will be more people who will want to preserve things as maybe as they were, but also as to have those markers of what have been. But now we have 7 minutes for a short break to drink coffee and then come back.